I only ask one question in this, and that is, what is your story? What is your journey with mental health?
Okay.
You can tell this
So
however the fuck you want. You can curse. You can do whatever the hell is necessary. It's basically, I just want to provide a platform to where people can actually say what they feel
yeah.
instead of having the world shit on them for saying what they feel. So you are
Yeah.
welcome to tell any story you want.
Okay. Well, I think that part of the reason why my brother thought I would be good for the podcast is because of my experience in the field of education.
Awesome.
So, after college, I went and got a degree in social work, a master's in social work. And when I first got out of grad school, I was working in like a grant funded program in Title One elementary school. And I was the social worker on the team. And so we were dealing with, it really ended up being a lot of behavioral issues. And so the purpose, like, I wanted to help kids work on their mental health and help kids with mental
Yeah.
health issues. And it really ended up being a lot of behavior management. Teachers would send the kids to us if they misbehaved in the classroom just because they didn't have a choice. And so after that first year, we actually lost our grant. And a friend of mine in the school said you should actually be a guidance counselor. Like, a guidance counselor is a really great way to do what it is you want to do without the worries of, will I lose my grant next year? So I became a guidance counselor. So I spent
Oh
about,
shit.
yeah, so I spent
I
about
love that.
five,
that's
yeah.
that's very cool.
Yeah,
Very
it
cool.
was real, and I really loved the job I was doing, but it was I didn't feel like I was really doing anything other than babysitting kids just because of the amount of kids we had and the amount of time. So, I went back to school and you have to have a master's in education, and so I became a guidance counselor. So I was a guidance counselor in the public school system for about 5 years. It's definitely a Title One kind of, inner city school, and I loved every second of it there. And then spent 1 year at an academic magnet, and then I actually ended up falling into college counseling. So I ended up back at our alma mater, working in the college counseling office. Yeah, so I basically ended up at a college prep, a private college prep school, doing college counseling. And while, I think at first glance it seems like, okay, well, now you're just doing college stuff, but I felt like I was actually dealing with mental health with the kids more than I was as a guidance counselor, because
Yeah.
now, we had a specific guidance counselor at the private school that would deal with the social and emotional stuff. But when you're working with 18, 17, and 18-year-olds on the college admissions process, there's a lot of mental health involved, whether it's, the emotions of, can I get in anywhere? Am I good enough, to dealing with the stress and pressure of the process, but also just being an 18-year-old senior in high school.
Yeah.
Um, and then also helping the students that did have learning differences, helping them not only get the accommodations and supports they needed at school, but how would they use that in the admissions process to then also get those accommodations in college. So
Wow.
so I almost deal with it more than I did as just a straight up guidance counselor. And I've been doing it for, I don't know, over 2 decades now.
Wow,
So,
Caroline, Jesus Christ. This
yeah.
that is so sick. Because if I had a guidance counselor like you, maybe I wouldn't have said, "Fuck off. I don't wanna talk to you." And, like, that's
Yeah.
literally going through that system that, uh, the high school, presented such a wrong way of doing things. And
Hmm.
it was, "If you don't get this grade, if you don't do this, we're gonna just apply more pressure, more pressure, more pressure," and I'm like, "Fuck this."
Yeah.
Like, I just care about people, like, I just wanna talk to human beings. You're not a human being to me, fuck you.
Right.
And that literally, uh, Caroline, that is so awesome.
Yeah, I love my job, and there I feel
Are you
like,
still doing that now? The
yeah, I'm still doing it now.
For
And
the high school we went to, is that
no, I've changed schools, so I'm at a different school
thank
now.
God.
I feel like when we, and I'm a little older than you, but I feel like when we were graduating from high school and going to college, I mean, the high school we went to, there was a lot of pressure, like, you are going to college.
Yeah,
Period. I mean, there
yep,
wasn't a question of, are you going? You're going.
yeah,
And I feel like that landscape at certain schools has ratcheted up even more, because now all the schools we wanted to go to are, 5 times harder to get into now than they were
Yeah.
back then. And so for some kids, I feel like there's more pressure. But one thing that I think has become a little better is, the movement towards college is not for everybody, and if you don't want to go to college, there's a lot of amazing options. And,
Yeah.
there are plenty of people, friends I have, students I've had that make way more money than I do that never went to college,
Right.
but, find their passion. But
It's that stigma of you have to go to college. And yes, it is harder to get to where you want to be without that, quote degree or whatever it is, because companies hire you, right? Like,
Mhm.
but I feel like the people that that do things really, really well are the people that say, I want it to be hard because then I appreciate it more. And that's kind of my thing is like, I want it to be difficult because if it's not difficult,
Mhm.
I'm going to get bored as shit and I'm just going to stop.
Yeah.
Like if it's easy, if it's handed to me, it's like, okay, well, great. I have a degree.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Except like I want the difficulty. And I think a lot of people with mental health issues want the difficulty. I mean, it's kind of this thing in their brain where they're like, I, yeah, it would be nice for things to be easier, but I hate nice. Like,
Yeah.
I want it to be hard. Like,
Yeah.
I want it to be an
Yeah.
epic story. And I think that's fantastic. How many kids would you say, not kids, how many people would you say you speak with that have ADHD, bipolar, all of this uh, on
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked this. So when I first started over 20 years ago, even as a guidance counselor, I did either. I don't think there was less amount of kids, but I think that less kids were either not like knowledgeable about what their disability or mental health challenge was,
right?
or there was just too much stigma to come out and say, this is what it is. So I will say now kids are much more open about it. And I don't know
Yeah,
if it's the social media era or whatever, but now the kids that, I mean, the levels of anxiety in college going kids is huge.
I think it was
Uh,
COVID actually that forced everyone to kind of reanalyze. Like,
yeah.
you know what?
It could have been, yeah, it could have been COVID. And I do think there is something to be said for kids being more open about it. I mean, kids
Yeah,
these days will share anything. Nobody ever knew my SAT score, and these students these days will literally shout it across the auditorium at their friend, like they don't care. They're like, "Oh yeah, I got a blah blah
I,
blah."
I
But
was that kid. You remember this? Like I was
yeah,
that kid. I'm like I got a like a 5 on my ACT or whatever the hell it was. Or, no,
yeah,
not
yeah,
a 9. I got 5 points for doing this, and I was like, I don't give a shit. Like
yeah.
it didn't matter
Kids
to
these days
me.
don't either.
Good. Okay, so
Hmm.
we're making
Yeah.
progress.
No, I was just going to say, I do see more and more kids that are having anxiety, and it could be from COVID, but more and more kids that have anxiety. I don't see as much bipolar because I don't think bipolar gets diagnosed until usually like early 20s. But I see a lot of anxiety. I see a lot of depression. I see a lot of ADHD. I see a
Yeah,
lot of dyslexia. And kids, I think, are again more open to say, hey, like I have dyslexia, I need accommodations,
right,
coming into my office and saying, "Here's my IEP." That's an individual education plan where it says what accommodations they need, et cetera. And they're more open about saying that and disclosing it in college applications as well, because knowing, okay, when I go to college, I'm going to need these same accommodations and supports. And
right.
so now looking at it, okay, which colleges are going to be able to offer me not only
Wow.
services again for ADHD, dyslexia, but also anxiety, depression, mental health in general. So
So it's not just the initial context, it's you're following up
yeah,
and leading them to that's incredible. I think that let me pick your brain on
yeah,
this. Is I think that ADHD is very, very significant in this scenario because in my experience with it, ADHD allows these quote more difficult things to come in. So like my brain, for example, I know what to do and I can't do it. If there is no bridge from knowing what to do to doing it, that is going to lead you so far down that
Yeah.
maybe it allows bipolar or whatever else it is to come in.
Mhm.
When I think what we should be saying is you have to build your own bridge, but it's going to be a lot harder to do it this way.
Mhm.
But if you do
Mhm.
this, you respect it more. You
Mhm.
every time you drive over that bridge from knowing what to do to doing it, "Oh, I woke up today. I made my bed." That was a massive win for
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah.
We don't celebrate that enough, in my opinion, and I think that society kinda shits on, people with ADHD because it's the quote, little kid syndrome. "Oh, he can't sit still in
Mhm.
math class." Well, no shit, I can't sit still in math class. I'm a 5-year-old
Right.
boy that is bored as fuck.
Right. Right.
Like, so
And I'm just waiting for recess. Yeah.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
and recess is where we thrive. I think I did
Yeah.
really well at recess. I sucked at the other shit, but
Yeah.
recess was fun. We don't pump people up enough, in my opinion, to be like, "Yeah, you might struggle with this, however, you're really good at this." And as a counselor, for you, I think that is a massive amount of pressure and also a massive amount of like satisfaction and going, you know what? I helped that guy. I helped that girl. I helped. Like, how awesome do you feel when that person fucking succeeds?
It is awesome because, I in my experience, some of the smartest kids I've ever worked with are kids that have dyslexia and ADHD because
Yeah,
these are kids that are massively smart. So not only are they doing the same thing their peers are doing, but they're learning how to overcome their challenges and do it. So they're some of the smartest kids I've ever worked with. They just need the tools and the resources to figure out how to do it.
yeah,
But like you're saying, when you find a kid, like when you help a kid find a college that is a great fit for them. So for example, I have a student who is at a small private college right now, and this student, he was picking between a large public and a small private, and both highly ranked great schools, and he was really vacillating between which one, and he chose the smaller private. And the way he's learned how to advocate for himself, how to use the resources he has, and he's thriving. And it
so
does
awesome.
almost make it more encouraging and more exciting for him and his family because he's done this despite those challenges, and he's figured it out. And so it's awesome.
Uh, yeah, that the whole
Yeah.
he's figured it out thing is like what an amazing thing. It
Yeah.
to have is be like, "You know what? I did have to build that bridge, and I built it. I don't now I can drive over it and be like, I did this
Yeah.
nail here, and nail here, this nail here, this nail here." I honestly, I think people with mental health disorders, which a lot of the students you work with probably have, are
Mhm.
the most brilliant
Mhm.
people because they have to figure it out.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
doesn't come easy.
right, it's not provided for them. If it's
Right.
provided, then all of a sudden it's, "Okay, well, now I can't do shit because I'm bored," and all of that
Yeah.
bullshit. It's like a and I'm not saying, like, you have to be hard on people, but if you give them the ability to be themselves and follow what they love, people with mental health issues will skyrocket to levels that
Mhm.
you've never seen. I mean, we're different, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm different. You've known me forever. Like, I'm an interesting individual. So is Guy. Your
Yes.
brother. So are you. So are a lot of these people. But guess what we're doing? We followed something we love, and now we're succeeding.
Yeah.
And then we take that and help other people succeed. To
Yeah.
me, this is the biggest advantage that no one talks about. Name one CEO, one great person in the world that is fucking normal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I agree with you. And yes, I agree with you 100%. And I love the focus that's coming on mental health. I have a former student from our alma mater who has really made it, and I'm going to say her name out loud because she's all over social media, but her name is Daniela Pearson.
Okay.
And she has really, really brought mental health to the forefront of everything. And she's a big time CEO now, and she talks about it all. She's been on the cover of Esquire, I want to say, or Forbes,
Holy
and
shit.
she, yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you her info and stuff when we get out, when we end.
Yeah.
But I just think the movement towards destigmatizing it has been really, really great. And, I feel like it used to be these kids that had, accommodations. It was like, oh, well, these are the extra time kids. Nobody looks at it like that anymore.
Oh my God, the extra time. Can I
Yeah.
just mention that for a second?
Yes.
When I was given extra time on tests, that was a detriment to me because I didn't study.
Really?
I didn't study for it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now I have extra time to realize how bad I'm failing this fucking test and not knowing the answers. And
Yeah.
and so for some people with the ADHD, if they're not interested, they're never going to study for it.
Right. Whether you
And
have double
eh,
time, triple time, right?
right, it could be 3
Right.
days. That's 3
Yeah.
days of misery. Why don't I just
Yes.
fill in the fucking bubbles and hand it in and be like, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Like, and that's kinda
Yeah.
how I think at the very end of the day, it's unless you get to know the individual person and what they're struggling with, you can't help shit.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
think you can see it in your eyes, your passion for this is like that kid went to this school that did that. That is
Yeah.
that that is what we need more of. Sorry, I get
Yeah.
really
And I
animated
love it.
about this.
No, it is awesome. That's why I love what I do. I love working with kids.
Lobau Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports just one person in their time of absolute crisis with their mental health. If you would like to donate to our fundraiser titled Lauren's Infinity, the link is listed in the episode's description. Lauren was my wife's best friend and loved by all who came into contact with her.
At this age, because they're figuring themselves out. But and I think more and more colleges are figuring it out too, because I don't know if you've been hearing anything about it, but a lot of these colleges are moving away from standardized testing
Thank
for
God.
admissions.
Thank
Yes. So I
God.
think they're realizing, there's a lot of arguments against testing, some of it being, by, ethnic bias, socio economic status bias. But I think also just smart, not everyone, it's like it's being intelligent and doing well on tests are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And so they're realizing that a student, like, indicators of student success in college is not necessarily an SAT or an ACT.
Thank
And so they're
God.
finding other ways to assess kids, whether it's reading their essays that they write, whether it's looking at their resumes, looking at their curriculum, looking at their grades, interviewing kids, finding ways to get to know kids, like you said, getting to know them beyond
Yeah.
just, this is my GPA, this is my test score.
It is time once again to recognize the biggest supporters of this podcast. Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 13 anonymous supporters. And I understand that because I can curse and all that kind of shit. I get it. I get it. If you want to support this podcast anonymously, you are free to do so. It's totally fine. But this does not exist without you. And I love you. Right. And I think, honestly, if I was the president of a college and I'm doing admissions, I want to meet the person.
Yeah.
I don't want to read it on a fucking sheet of paper. I want to
Yeah.
meet the person because if that person is smart enough to convince me that he will be good at this place, then he is a smart motherfucker and we should admit
Right. Take
he
him.
knows how to get to
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But we don't look at those abstract things enough right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And depending on the school, it's like, so at your institution where you work, that's an institution of 70,000 kids. There's not
yeah,
enough time in the day to meet every applicant.
right.
And so, but some of the smaller
Yeah,
schools that have time to do holistic review, they're doing it. And I think that it's to their credit, and it's
yeah.
going to just enhance their student body and their population. But if you're
I-
ever interested in what schools are not looking at tests anymore, there's a website called fairtest.org. and it lists every single college that doesn't require tests
Would you
anymore.
send me that, please,
Yeah,
so that I can put
yeah,
that in the episode's description, all that.
absolutely.
But also for everyone listening, um, I did not go to the 70,000 person, college, but now I work in their athletic department. It is possible if
Yeah,
you love something like football. I love football. You know me forever. I love football.
right.
But but it's so funny to me. It's like, so how did you get to this point? It was, I just dogged it to death because I really wanted to lead the team out of the tunnel. Like that was my childhood dream.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted from like day one. It took me 30 years to, to be able to do it, but finally I got a chance to do it. And it mattered. Like it mattered. And I was like,
Because
you
you
know what?
worked so hard for it.
I know.
It
That's
wasn't just handed to you.
exactly.
When you talk about, okay, your dream was to, this was your dream and you
Yeah.
got there. I think one thing that I've been really adamant about telling kids is that there's a lot of different paths to get where you want to be. So, for example, let's say they set a university as their goal and they don't get in. Okay, well, you can transfer. You can go there for graduate school. You can, I mean, there's other
Yeah.
ways to, and it's not just with college admissions, it's with life. And
Right.
so I think some people get dead set on, if I don't get into this college, I'm not
Yeah.
a success. And so I just think success comes in so many different routes and
Oh
forms.
my
And,
God, Caroline, yes. Because it was, honestly, the initial dream was I wanted to play on the field. I'm
as
I'm
football player,
I'm
I was
5'5".
gonna say you're not a tall
Yeah,
guy.
I'm 5'5". Whatever. Probably not
Yes.
gonna happen. Except
No.
I wanted to get on that field. So what do I have to do? I have to work for an organization, dog it to death, that puts me
Yep.
on that field in front of all of those people that I idolize.
Yep.
And when you get that, it's the same thing as playing. That's
Yeah.
playing. It is, hey, by the way, I made it, fuckers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
so
think
you're
that's
right.
so
That
important.
speaks to what you're saying. Is there are
Yeah.
a lot of different routes. It doesn't have to be exactly what you envisioned,
Right. Exactly.
but the
And
feeling
it's
can
not a
be the
linear
same.
process either.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be all sorts of different stops and starts. I mean, that's just not with college, that's with your personal life, that's with
Yeah.
everything. So letting kids know that, if it doesn't work out the first time, that doesn't mean, well, that's dream over, like done.
Unbelievable. Caroline, if you were my guidance counselor, I would have been on that field 15 years ago.
I can't make you 6 feet.
I know. Working on it every day. Still
I know.
suck. But no, one thing I have to ask you, and
Yeah.
this is a very difficult question. It's the hardest question for anyone to answer, but it's also necessary. Is what are you most proud of in your life? This cannot be, though. This cannot be your husband, kids, anything like it has.
Ah,
It has to be a characteristic within you that
okay.
you are most proud of. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So it is kind of kid adjacent though, but because I was going to say the thing I'm most proud of is my kids. But when you actually think about
Right.
my kids and what makes them awesome, I think it's the parenting that I've, in conjunction with their father. I don't want to take full credit, and my parents,
Right.
but I think I've done a really good job as a mother, helping encourage them without over pressuring them, helping them, be themselves, helping them embrace appropriate failure, take appropriate risks. That level of parenting, what's that fine line of, being a helicopter parent versus just being a free range, like go do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
So I will say, I think personally, one of the things I'm most proud of is the parenting and the way I mother, like the mother I have become to my kids.
And I love that so much. However, what individual characteristic within
Oh,
you are you most proud of?
that's hard.
It is. But the thing is, when people actually look, I think the last answer I had was when I was, if I look back at my younger years, I can honestly look up now and say, I'm a kick-ass adult. It's basically what they said. I go, okay.
Yeah.
that wins. But I do want to know, Caroline, what is your best characteristic within you? Because we don't talk about this
Um,
enough. It's always
I
about like,
know.
right?
Other people, especially as a mother, like you're literally
Yeah,
constantly focused on
exactly.
everyone else. But
So it's time to talk about you. What you're great at. Let's-
yeah. Whew. I have a mean forehand on the tennis court, but I don't know.
Okay,
I
love
would
that.
think
Love that.
good.
But
I guess maybe I am proud, or I think I'm good at being like a loving, giving person. So I think I'm good at
perfect.
recognizing what other people kind of need
Can,
and being able to give that to them.
can we shift that into I am good at loving other people?
I am good at loving other people.
There it
That's
is.
a powerful exercise. That's way harder than I thought it was going to be.
And it's powerful though, because like I was asked that question a while back, and I'm like, I have my dream job, I have a great wife, I have this, and they're like, no, what within you? And I'm like, well, I can't say determination because that's cliche, and then I can't say all of this, and I'm like, I'm the most determined motherfucker you'll ever meet in your goddamn life. That's who I am. So this poor girl took her own life 3 years ago. I started a podcast. It's become successful. That's like,
Yeah.
so within me, I have a stamina to a degree that like I will never stop. And that can be at a detriment to me, but that's also what I'm most proud of, is the grit and the toughness that it takes to help other
Yeah.
people. So it's kind of a phrasing of it. It's
Yeah.
I think I'm good at this. I think no, you fucking are good at this. Thank you, and I love you.